Howdy, y'all. It's me, Michael Anthony Giudice, the author of the Back to Billy series of books. And a lot of you may know about the books, but what you may not know is that a lot of the real history of Billy the Kid and Lincoln County War, Lincoln, New Mexico, and New Mexico as a whole is contained within the fictional story of Billy the Kid and time-traveling Martin Teebs and the lovely Rosita Luna. So in a series of videos, I want to take you a little bit inside the books and let you know where the intersection of real history connects with the history that I wrote about our anti-hero, Martin Teebs. And it all starts in book number 1, and that's Back to Billy. This is the second edition. I did rewrite this book after releasing the first edition. And so let's talk about it. Well, the book opens in Lincoln, 1878, as Billy's about to escape from being in prison. Let's talk about Martin's story, Martin Teebs. Martin Teebs is from Waldwick, New Jersey. It's an actual town in Bergen County, not far from where the Real Housewives of Bergen County are from. Waldwick, New Jersey, in the year 2020 is when the book starts. So let's develop a little timeline real quick so we can keep track of it. All right, so we start Waldwick. Now, let's do that. Okay, so we're in Waldwick, New Jersey. When in 2020 are we? Well, that's not really specified in the book, but based on the events that happened, it's very likely that it was very late 2020, probably December, or very early 2021. And so since I'm going to go with the fact that the book states 2020, I'm going to call this December 2020. Now, Martin's time, although he winds up in the past and takes part in a number of key events of the Lincoln County War, Martin's time in this book, or his timeline, ends roughly in September of 2021. And the reason I know that is not because it's written in the book, but it's because the events that Martin goes through, the kind of life milestones, and the fact that the book, for the most part, ends for him late summer of the year after this book started. So we're going to call it September 2021. So we've got Martin for about 10 months of his life, and a number of amazing things happen to him. But the very first one, the one that really intersects real and imagined history, is the killing of Sheriff Brady. And that happens somewhere around, I'd say about a third into Martin's timeline of this book. Martin goes on a trip to Lincoln, New Mexico. He has no idea he's going to have this ability to travel in time. He has no idea he's going to meet Billy the Kid. He's just been interested because he's seen the movie Young Guns. And so he has decided, like many of you, and probably me as well, that the only way to really get the whole Billy experience is to be right there in Lincoln. So he talks his wife into going, and they arrive there on March 31, 2021. But Martin slips back in time that day to the exact same day, but well in the past, March 31, I think I said 31, March 31, 1878. And that would be on the eve of April Fool's Day, April 1st, 1878. And we know that's the day that Sheriff Brady was shot and killed. And that's Martin's second experience. The night before is his first experience. I'm not going to spoil the book if you haven't read it, and you can do that right on this channel. But Martin has a front row seat to the murder of Brady by the regulators. Now, does the history of that April 1, 1878 line up with the known history? Well, first of all, when it comes to Billy the Kid, Lincoln County War, regulators, there is very little known history that's not endlessly debated for whatever reason. But we have a pretty good idea who was there at the Tunstall store, who fired on Brady. And I will say that a few of the characters, or a few of the regulators that are in the fictional version here, are not the exact same regulators as were at the store that morning and took part in the ambush of Brady. But certainly Billy was there and some of the other regulators. They're all real people that are mentioned, but they may not have actually been there. And that's just for the fact that it's hard to introduce 30 or 40 characters into a book. And so you've got to keep them contained to some point, or at some point to a certain number. But that's Billy's first experience with real, or that's Martin's first experience with the real history. And Martin makes a little history of his own. If you haven't read it, I won't spoil it for you, but not the kind of history probably that he wanted. Where do we pick up Martin's story next in the past? Well, after going back to New Jersey, living with his wife, kind of wrestling with this whole idea of this time travel and the fact that he's got a buddy and he's got a great love of his life and he's got friends and he knew nothing about this. About halfway in, Martin winds up in the McSween house in July. And Martin is about to be burned out alive with the rest of the regulators. Don't have the date on the tip of my tongue, but it's July 1878. And Martin takes place in essentially the exact same real history of what happened during the burning of the McSween house. And there wasn't really much of a war after that. McSween was dead, Tunstall was dead. The Tunstall store had been occupied. Jimmy Dolan would soon buy it. But Martin takes place in this and has a kind of interesting episode with McSween during the Great Escape. They have a little conversation beforehand, before they go out the back door. And then McSween turns the tables on Martin. And, well, regrettably, that doesn't work out very well. Now, the book opens with Billy escaping from the house, the store where he's been imprisoned by Sheriff Pepin, which didn't happen, at least not in that way. But that wraps around to another incident that takes place, and we're going to have to call it probably August or very early September 1878. So we'll go with August. And that is, at least as far as this book goes, that is Martin's final appearance in Lincoln, at least as far as this book goes. Now, interestingly enough, in this August 1878, Billy winds up killing Ollinger to escape the jail. Now, you might say, well, that's not possible because Ollinger was alive in 1881 when Billy shot him. And that is true, but Bob Ollinger had a brother. And so in this case, it was Bob Ollinger's bully, even more bullyish older brother that was tasked with taking care of Billy and making sure that he did not escape, although ultimately he did. Martin gets a big surprise on that trip back in time and thinks that maybe, hey, he may have, Billy's escaped, he's left Lincoln, the regulators are gone, the war's over. Martin's going, maybe with the beautiful Rosita Luna, maybe this is it, maybe I can stay. This is where I'm meant to be. Yes, I have a wife back in the future or in his present time, but it just might be that I belong here and I can stay here. And that doesn't work out when Martin runs into a nemesis that shows up early in the book by the name of Carl Farber. And I'm not going to tell you what happened. I'm not going to tell you what happened after Martin left with Farber and Rosita. And I'm not going to tell you what happened back in present day with Carl Farber and Martin Teebs. But suffice to say, they wound up living in almost the exact same town, same area, and running into each other in a pretty comical way. But all of that wraps around to the September 2021, and guess who makes an appearance here? A very brief but very important That's right. Billy the Kid makes an appearance on Martin Teebs' doorstep September 2021. Martin's got a party going on, a little barbecue in the backyard. He can't believe what he's seeing when he answers the door, and that leads to a very dramatic and very quick ending to the book. So, if you're interested in the real history of Billy the Kid and the Lincoln County War, you're going to find a lot of it within this book. You'll find even more of it in upcoming books, or in the next books in the series. But there's quite a bit of it in this first book right here. This book, by the way, I started writing in 2019, finished in 2020 during COVID because you couldn't make movies, and so all I could do was write books, and was always intended to be one and done. One book, story's over. And I think if you read the book to the end, you'll see that the story of Martin and Billy is resolved. It's all finished. But of course, with time travel, many, many things are possible. And so it wound up not being finished. But the real reason that the book went on past the initial story, the initial volume, was that I had written a screenplay, the Back to Billy screenplay, and was talking with a producer up in Denver, Colorado. And he read it, liked it, gave me some feedback, and said, "Hey, but you didn't tell me what happened to Rosita. You didn't tell me what happened to Carl Farber. You didn't tell me what happened to Lily Teebs, Martin's wife in present day. And I want to know that." Well, my idea, of course, was that no, you can just insert that for yourself. You can imagine whatever that thing is that you wanted to happen to them, because I like that in the story. I like it at the end of a movie where not everything is specifically stated. But this guy was insistent that, gosh, I really want to know what happened. And so that was the spark or the premise for me going back to write book number 2, 1877. And as I was writing that, I knew there would be a book 3. And then, of course, it just took off. And we've got 9 books in the series, book 10 currently being written now. So Back to Billy, second edition. If you want to imagine what it would be like for you to go back in time and befriend Billy the Kid or fight against him, to find out that you had a significant other, a soulmate in the past that you knew nothing about, to find out that you rode and fought with the regulators and you had no idea whatsoever. In fact, until weeks before, you had no idea who Billy the Kid was. Then I think you'll love Back to Billy. And you can find it on any online book retailer, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Goodreads, any online books. You can search for Back to Billy, or you can search, for me, Michael Anthony Giudice, and order it up. I would love to hear what you think about it. It's a really kind of rollicking good story through time and back and time and back and time and back and time and back. If you've read it or listened to any of the audiobooks, please, I'm begging you, I am begging you, go to Amazon and write a review, or just leave a 1 to 5 stars. I don't care if you leave 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 stars. I don't care what you write in the review. Just be honest. I'm not asking you to write a glowing review. Just write a review. The more that are there, the more people see the book when they search for Billy the Kid, Lincoln County War, etc. So you'd be doing me a great, great service if you could just take a few minutes and do that. Just go to Amazon.com, search for Back to Billy, or search for me, Michael Anthony Giudice. You can go to my authors page and you'll see all the books. Click on the one you read or the one you want to write a review for, and write that review. All right, great. If you have questions about the book, if I've missed anything or screwed something up royally, by all means, leave that in the comments. And next time we'll be back with our investigative expose of book number 2 in the series, 1877. Yes, does it take place before all these events happen? Yeah, it's the origin story of Martin and Billy's friendship, Martin and Rosita's love affair, and a whole bunch of other things, including possibly the death of John Henry Tunstall. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.